This right here, right now, is the joy of being a live stream, coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York. And if you're joining us anywhere other than twitch.tv/deepmindfulness, well, come on over. We're here. Curious what platform you're on. We have some folks joining us from Facebook and some folks joining us from YouTube and all over the place. So, folks, where are you now? What brings you here? And where is the window where I can see what people are saying? What? You want me to log in? Sorry about that. Beep, boop, boop, beep, boop. So, folks, what's going on? What's happening? What's new? What's the deal? Yeah, so what's going on? Folks, we're very happy that you're here. My happy are here, written like a 13-year-old little girl texting to her friends. But I am happy you're here. Folks, got an exciting one today. We had a special request meditation, and we're going to be diving into that. So that'll be fun. Folks, good news. We're going to be meditating today. The bad news is, after the meditation, you're going to have to wait another 72 hours to meditate again, at least with us. But the other good news is we're now operating 5 days a week. 5 days a week do we have live meditations at 11 a.m., I think. Hey, babe.
Yeah?
Are you switching your Tuesday, Thursday to 11?
I have to check my calendar.
Okay. Probably at 11 a.m. And the Tuesday and Thursday are going to be at on our Instagram, which is at Deep Mindfulness. Lovely, lovely. Wait, people are writing and I can't even read it. What's happening here? Okay, why is this not appearing on my screen? Hello from London here. 2020 CL. Nice to have you here. Let's see here. See if I can read what's on this stage here. BLD Denny K. Well, K to you too. Glad you're doing well. Rory here from Ontario. Excellent, folks. Oh, when I type something, it says it's from Restream. That's funny, because it's actually from me. That's no fair. Okay, folks. Lovely. Excellent. So, folks, as we begin to enter into our daily journey into the realm of meditation, what have you done? What's been going on in the last 24 hours? How's life going? I had a very weird situation where I could not sleep last night. About 3:30 a.m. woke up. The system was like, no, we're done. I got about an hour of sleep between 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. Other than that, not so much. Not so much. So a little clunk-a-dunk. Wise conclusion, breathing in DC, well, be careful. That can be both of those can be a danger. Being in DC and breathing in general, but as I'm sure you're handling it like a champ. Yeah, what else? What else is going on, folks? What's been going on in the last 24 hours? Anything new, special? Let's see what's happened in our world. One of the nice things I've been investing in video equipment, so we have a bunch of beautiful video equipment. What are we doing with that video equipment? Well, I'll tell you right now, since you asked rhetorically within my mind, is we're making a new video coming out on how to turn your particular life into a silent meditation retreat. And I was like, okay, I want to be thorough, but I also want to make sure that it's, very concise. And it is both of those things. And apparently to be thorough, the most concise version is like nearly an hour. So that's, if you're interested, it's a very thorough video that's coming soon. We still have to finish editing that. That's coming soon. We also had a very lovely conversation with Shinzen Young, who is a meditation teacher many of you know. We talked yesterday for quite some time, although there were so many diversions that were really totally off topic that we're probably going to have to edit that down, so that's going to take a little time here. Bob says, Bob Sunders, hi again. FYI, I was watching on Twitch a few times recently, but my comments did not show up on the screen at all. Damn it. Damn it all to hell. The damn system has foiled us. Bob, were you typing in from... were you typing in from... Oh, you're watching on... Oh, okay, so... Beep, boop, boop, beep. Just so you know, your comments, you mean when you were watching the playback, they didn't show up on the screen? Because yeah, that's my question. Were you typing your comments on the, while you were watching the playback? Because that would not show up on the screen. Oh, we have a new follower here, Denny144. Well, Denny144, trying to get back to normal life in Illinois. Well, listen, I know that Illinois is known for its normalcy, but it's a strange time, so excellent that you're making all the effort you can. On YouTube now, I was watching on the Twitch live stream. Okay, so just so you know, because it's a playback, it can't appear on the screen, because this is, it's being, as you do things live, it appears live, and then you're just watching a recording. So it used to be the case that you could leave comments during the stream, and it would show up on the side at least, but they've actually eliminated that. I don't know why. So yeah. So Denny, thank you so much for the follow. If people don't know, here on Twitch, you can hit that follow button, and not only do you get a nice little animation that pops up to give you a little boost to whatever, a little endorphin boost, like, hey, that's me on the screen. But also you get to find out when we're going live, which is always lovely. We passed, I think, 50 followers not long. I forget what it was. I can't remember how many we're up to. If someone's watching this on Twitch, how many followers do we have now? It's weird to call them followers because it feels a little like I've been watching all these Branch Davidian documentaries. I don't know if people have watched the most recent one that Netflix put out about Waco. Whew, that's quite a docudrama, really intense, based on the retelling. Oh my God, I didn't even realize we had over 100. Wow. Duan, I think that's probably not correct, but Duan, well, whatever. Just tell me how to pronounce it. I'll try my best. Wow, that's great. We're rolling into getting closer to 200, so that's crazy. I was like, I think we have over 50, so that's cool. And I think on our YouTube now we have over 3,000 subscribers, so that's cool. Hey, that's fun. More people having fun with meditation. Gotta love that. So everyone, grab your matchas. Make yourself a matcha mustache. Today I'm having a cold matcha, which is quite delightful. And we're going to jump right into the meditation. So finding a nice, comfortable posture that you can maintain for the duration of the sit. Just had a nice conversation with someone who works with folks with trauma, which is basically anyone in the therapy field. And we had a conversation about adjustments to the posture for people who may or may not have trauma. And the interesting thing is, you want to make these adjustments if you need to, if you have the experience of trauma, and you do. However, sometimes needing to make these adjustments or this kind of thing can be an indication that there might be trauma there. If somebody is meditating and they tell me, I'm meditating, but whenever I close my eyes, I just get, waves of terror and panic arise and that kind of thing. And it only stops when I close my eyes, or even, a smaller version of that. Often I say, I don't know if this is the case, but it could be the case that it's an indication of trauma, which is very, very, very common. The majority of people have some degree of trauma, and we're all in a pretty chaotic situation right now that is likely going to produce some trauma for kind of everybody. Somebody else pointed out their grandma, still keeps food to the point of rotting in the fridge, in the freezer, and actually, and this is because they're, they lived through the Great Depression. It's also, I don't mean to, poke fun of Raquel, but that's also something Raquel will sometimes do. She's just like, no, it can last one more day. And I wonder if it's because she was in part raised by her grandma, who also lived through the Great Depression. So I'm curious. Okay. I love my nickname. Everyone stumbles on it every time. every time questioning, how do I pronounce it? And my answer is the way you do is to pronounce it. There you go. So I'm going to call you Duan. Dayun. Dayun. I like Dayun. Okay, folks, finding that nice comfortable position you can maintain for the duration of the sit. Of course, if you have the experience of trauma or need to, you can always just move and adjust. But you do want to do so consciously. So making sure that when you find that position and you need to make an adjustment, if you need to make an adjustment, you wait a few breath cycles. Maybe you don't need to make the adjustment after all. Maybe you wait 30 seconds, something like this, and then you make the adjustment mindfully, slowly, consciously, in that way. Then you look around for your meditation bell and the meditation bell striker that you misplace comically with comic frequence. And then when you have those things, you get ready because we're about to begin. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths, just feeling the body rise and fall. Each time we arrive at a meditation, we arrive with the momentum of all of the previous moments. We don't need to know what caused all of these experiences, but we can know quite clearly what the result, what the effect of all of these different causes is, and that's our current sensory experience. So assessing, does the body have a lot of energy? Agitated, jumpy, fidgety? Does it have low energy, sleepy, foggy, dull? And the mind, is the mind settled, easily able to just hang out with current moment experience? Or is it more active, bouncing around, zipping quickly from sensation to sensation, easily distracted? Or perhaps the mind is dull, foggy, sleepy, having a hard time having contact with the crisp edges of the present moment. Sometimes when we sit in meditation, the body can be physically tight, or the body can be physically relaxed. I'm not suggesting it should be one or the other, but it could be either. Sometimes there are experiences that seem like distractions. Sometimes there aren't. Sometimes we'll stay conscious. Sometimes we will not. So at this point, we're not trying to direct the mind. We're not trying to stay focused. We're not trying to observe. We're not even trying to do nothing, to not do. Sometimes the body-mind does nothing. Sometimes it does things. Sometimes the experience of a kind of director will arise, a sense of a self that needs to create direction, to guide us in the meditation process. And sometimes that guiding, directing self does not arise. Neither one is better. Neither one is preferred. Sometimes the mind will chatter, narrating what's occurring or talking about future experiences, sometimes saying words that we've heard in the past. And sometimes the mind is quiet. Sometimes the mind will know the experience of a human body breathing. And sometimes this particular detail will drift away. Sometimes physical discomfort or agitation arises in the body. Sometimes the body moves or adjusts. Sometimes the agitation does not arise or the body does not move or adjust. Sometimes sound comes into consciousness. Sometimes it is not. Sometimes the experience of the darkness of closed eyes or the experience of seeing with the eyes open occurs. And sometimes this is not in consciousness. Something else fills up that real estate. Sometimes we experience a sense of space, of location, the arrangement of the parts of experiencing. And sometimes this space breaks down, isn't so solid or seems less directional. Sometimes mental images arise, flashes of the details of our environment or sounds we're hearing, locations, memory, planning, fantasy, and sometimes these things do not arise. Sometimes when there's no direction in practice, no thing to do, this is experienced as relaxing or freeing. Obligation and a sense of a need to do goes away. And sometimes the experience is that it's agitating. a sense of groundlessness or directionlessness. Sometimes a meditation is guided. Sometimes it is not. Sometimes there are directions. Sometimes distraction arises. Sometimes the mind will assess the practice is going wonderfully or the practice is going terribly. Sometimes our experience feels hard, and sometimes it feels easy. Sometimes a part of us tries to direct our experience, make it better. And sometimes this does not occur. Okay. So making the adjustments you need to allow the body to be comfortable. What on earth was that like? There are two main ways that I can find out about your experience. The first and most common is that I train someone to be a pretend art therapist, spending years honing their pretend skills, eventually putting out advertisements around where you live, eventually getting you to participate in their art therapy, and after the sessions, assessing alongside this person with no qualifications whatsoever what do these drawings really mean about your internal landscape. The second way is to ask you directly. So today we're going with the second way. What that means is we're going to make ourselves here a little Zoom link in the chatio. And folks are welcome to join and jump in if they'd like to come chit-chat like kitty cats. Or if you'd like to just leave any report of what that meditation was like in the comments, you can do that as well. It's also a great way to find out. But it is really true. It's funny because people will like our videos or they'll, subscribe or this kind of thing. And we often don't know who they are, which is a shame because we love people. We love hearing from them. We love finding out about what's going on, what makes them tick. So, the only way we can really shape our practice is by doing so in context. So we have a couple people here popping in on the Zoom. Let's see here. We're going to allow both of these folks in. See what happens. Hello, here we have Ad and Raven. Reuven. Oh, there you go. Okay, so folks, give me 1 second here. I'm going to make this visible for humans other than myself. Oh, it froze my camera. Fix that too. Okay. Okay, one part fixed. Reuven is here with us, and my camera is still frozen, so let's fix that. Ah, there we are. Excellent. Reuven and Ad, welcome here. But what was that meditation like? Might I ask? Are you frozen now? So Reuven, what was it? What was that practice like? Or any questions that arose?
Oh, I thought this was a replay. I didn't. I'm sorry, I didn't attend
the meditation. Not a problem.
meditation.
You're not in meditation detention. So you don't have to stay if you don't want. Or if you have any questions about your practice or anything related, happy to help if we can. This is just basically where we do Q&A and that kind of thing.
Oh, all right. Hopefully, I'll catch the next one. I was on a work call.
Oh, no sweat.
Right.
No
Well, I'll
sweat.
see you.
Oh, yeah, we'll see you soon. Well,
Right.
Thanks for joining. Awesome. Okay, so Ad, for yourself, what came up in that practice? What arose?
I just felt some body discomfort,
Mm-hmm.
and I kept getting pulled away with like these weird sensations, and I would have to like refocus myself. I didn't find it too bad.
Okay. And body discomfort, is it just from sitting for a while, or was it sort of something more regular, something more like potentially chronic pain or something like that?
It was more like um, I don't know how to describe it. It was
Hmm.
like a mix of things. It was like a little bit of chronic pain, but it was also kind of um like feeling my body was like shifting to one side or something. I don't know how to explain it. It was just it felt funny, a funny sensation.
Got it. And so it sounds like you felt some sensations that were a little bit amorphous, not quite exactly clear, and then, but they weren't terribly hard to sort of manage and work with along with the practice.
Correct.
Yeah, awesome. And so it's worth noting that today's practice was what's called a kind of do nothing practice. So there's very little direction or instruction on what to do in any situation like that. So was that challenging at all, or was it just sort of not a big deal? You sort of managed to sort of walk through it without any sort of bumpiness, without any real direction. Today was a directionless practice. I also
I
don't want
felt
to put.
like it was
Go ahead.
no, I felt like it was good. Yeah, I'm thankful for that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I don't mean to put you on the spot because I know that um, Revan came and thought this was a replay, so hopefully I wasn't terribly unclear. And again, you don't feel like you're in meditation detention. Any question or
Yeah.
anything? Any questions
um,
arising?
no, no,
Cool. Very
no,
awesome.
no.
Well, thank you so much for
I don't
joining.
have any questions.
Thanks for popping on, and especially thanks for just describing your experience. You know, I think at the beginning of practice, typically, it can seem so silly to describe our experience. It's like, well, I was a little sleepy, and then I got distracted, and then I wasn't distracted, and it seems like so like this is why would I even talk about this? But it's the thing I liken it to is that if we go back to like the 40s or 50s and we have a friend and we talk to or we talk to X person and they say, you know, I was mad at this person at work and they remind me of my mother. I'd be like, what? Like, why would those two things be related like this? That's totally crazy that you'd even mention that. And since then, we've become very familiar with psychology. And so we're familiarizing ourselves with, we could call phenomenology, but basically the raw sense experience, the non-narrative experience of, okay, the system was distracted, there was body sensation that was difficult, and then I refocused and this happened or this changed or these kind of things. And so it's really valuable to recognize that even describing what seems to be like the dumbest thing is actually really helpful to help the system have contact and become more aware of non-narrative sense experience. So thank you for that clear description. Much appreciated. Okay, let's take a peek here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you for your explanation. It was very nice to find a mindfulness channel on Twitch.
Oh, that's so great. I'm so glad that you found it. Yeah, we're happy that it's helpful. We're here 3 days a week. Glad that you were able to join. I'm going to take a peek here. This looks like there's a couple other folks here. Oh my goodness, we have a few here. Okay, so we're going to admit a couple, and just so folks know, it's always helpful to just you do the sound through Zoom so we don't get a kind of echoey thing going. So I'm going to try to admit everybody, and we can have a little open conversation here. Rory, Nate, and someone else. Boop, boop, boop. Everyone seems to be here. Okay. Well, welcome, folks. You are free to chit-chat if you'd like. Oh, wait, I can move this thing. Oh, that makes everything much easier. Let's see. Oh, Adrian, now we can see you. Oh, is that Adrian who just popped up? I can't even tell. See, there's two screens. It's totally crazy. Let's see. Who does it say is popped up here? You have a purple hoodie on. I don't.
Oh, that's me. I'm
Oh,
Leah.
Leah, nice to meet you. Welcome. Great to see you. So tell me, either what was the meditation like? What's meditation been like in life in general, or this last week, etc.? And any questions, any challenges or things arising that we could be helpful with?
Yeah, so I used to meditate a while ago, and this past week I've decided to come back to it. Um, And I came back to it already from a very peaceful place, but it kind of threw me into turmoil where I kind of discovered a lot about myself and then felt really attached to the idea of having to figure it out. And then today, because the meditation was so undirected, I just took the time to just be with myself and let go of all of these questions. And it was such a relief.
Awesome.
And so this is kind of a strange experience for me where in fact meditating has kind of thrown me into turmoil and then it also took me out of it. And I was just wondering if you could maybe say something about that, or
Yeah.
because usually I go into meditation to become more peaceful, not to not to upset myself.
Totally. Well, I think that we've, especially like now, like in the West and Western countries, in a way we've created a kind of caricature of what meditation is and should be, and it's helpful in a way because it sells meditation. People come to meditation, they realize all the benefits, etc. But we put it in this little shoebox and we're like, okay, it's this thing, it should be this. Because of that, people come in and their experience is different than that, and they think, well, what's wrong with me? Something must be wrong with me, or something's broken. Maybe the system, meditation's broken or something. But meditation is, I mean, it's so broad that it almost seems like silly. It's every piece of, anytime we're conscious, we could call that a sort of connection with the process of meditation. So when we talk to another human being, we have a conscious conversation, or we're like in a pool and by a beach or something like that, and we're like, I don't know why we're in a pool by a beach, it seems a little wasteful, but whatever. Someplace nice, and we're just like sort of taking it in. We're like, oh, look at this experience, this is happening. It's also part of the fiber of meditation. So it can be nice, it can be pleasant, it can also be very intense and challenging. And so it's helpful to know that whatever is occurring is natural, even if it seems challenging or difficult. And part of meditation is to allow what happens to be occurring. So just know that it's totally normal and totally common, actually, that meditation sometimes it feels disturbing, and meditation sometimes feels very calming. Ideally, we learn over time to get this, to develop the skill that if it's calming or unnerving or whatever it is, we can still be with that, and that's okay. And there's a kind of uber peace, a kind of overall greater peace that can come from accepting, hey, even when it's uncomfortable, that's fine. It's not a big deal. Like today, there was no direction, and the system was sort of like, hey, this is cool. I can live with this. Does that rhyme with your experience at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of.
And I guess my question is, how do I work through things that come up for me without getting attached to the idea and getting kind of like stuck on the idea that I have to fix it? Because that seems like a very difficult thing to balance.
100%. Yeah, so basically, it's so funny because this is one of the things, this is one of my curses of the way that I teach. There's a simple answer and there's a really layered answer, and the simple answer is, meditate a lot, and that's one way to do it. All of the ways that we can grow are all the obvious things we could list. We can do therapy, we can do sort of journaling, all these things work. And then the more detailed answer is to say, okay, let's deconstruct it. One type of meditation is to deconstruct that experience. And so what I think we'll do is, just for simplicity, I'm just going to stay with that for now as a way of meditating, in order to deconstruct that sense of needing to fix things. And I totally identify with that. We're meditating and all of a sudden it's like, I need to do this thing that's better, or I'm in life and there's sort of, the system won't let go of things that it needs to fix. Does that sound familiar with what you're describing?
Yeah, that sounds really familiar.
Yeah. The first thing is to just notice that is occurring when it's occurring. And it's all the way from like obsessing over other people and being like, oh, why won't they be this way, or why aren't they acting this way? Or, being like really nervous about life and sort of anxiety, all the way to this really subtle experience. And this is where we get to watch this in a very subtle form in meditation, where we're sitting there and today there was no real direction. And for some people, it's likely that experience was anxiety producing, because it's like, what am I supposed to do? What's going on? And that part of us that wants to fix and resolve and make things be better is on overdrive, because it's like, where do I land? I want some place that I can explore this from. So just noticing that that's occurring is actually very powerful, because there is this force of unconsciousness, and unconsciousness is where all of our woes often come from. We're unconscious, so we drink so much we black out, or we eat food that we don't want to eat, whatever our vice is. And just bringing consciousness to whatever's happening, that experience often breaks apart the consciousness. It's sort of obvious, like darkness can't exist with sunlight, so unconsciousness can't exist if we're just conscious of that. So just knowing that's occurring. In meditation, a way to know that's occurring is just by labeling it. We could just say, wanting mind. As we're sitting there practicing whatever the meditation is, maybe we're just listening to sound, listening, and then this planning voice or the self that wants to solve comes up, and we could just say, oh, planning mind, or we could say, solve it, Sally. Sometimes I'll give these different parts of me different names just to be a little silly, because it's fun and it helps me remember. And we can also label what it's built out of. So some part of that is often built out of mental imagery. So there's some sense of a list of things we need to do that sort of pops up in the mind. There's some mental audio often. The mind is sitting there, mind just grumbling. It's like, it's like telephone bill, like sort of grumbling at us, telling us, what we're supposed to be doing. And so we might say, there's some audio in the mind, so we might just say the word hear, because we're hearing the sound, see if we're seeing any mental imagery, this kind of thing. And it takes away the strength of the narrative, because as humans, we tend to think, I'm the central character in reality, and all of this is happening to me. And this narrative is useful if we want to do something in life, but it's very problematic if we want to step away from the narrative, if we want to have freedom from this like self that always has to be doing and self that always has to be solving. So those are just a few strategies. Does that, what I said, does that make sense for you?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. Nice. Yeah, and just know that like you can do that right now. Like you don't have to wait until that self arises. The system that is one of the central ones that I teach from is called See, Hear, Feel. And at any given moment, seeing, hearing, and feeling is occurring. And so you can just at any moment say, see, hear, or feel whatever is at the surface, and it breaks down that narrative over time. It makes it less like, the world is happening to me. Like maybe, I can think about, my mind can suddenly go into like, what are these people saying about me? What is, whatever. And what that is some mental audio, hear. It's some mental visual of this person being a bad person. Oh, see, okay. Some feel, some emotion. Oh, I feel this tension in my chest and this kind of thing. That's emotional. Okay, feel. Great. So the entire world is broken down into 3 syllables, which is very, very manageable. And it's also like, it's not my enemy. Like mental audio is not a bad person. It's just some sound that's happening. So it makes things much less personal and conflictual in that way. Does that help at all?
That does help, thanks.
Awesome. And just so you know, I'll put this in the chat here. There's 15 guided meditations. Let me see if this makes it work. Did it work? I can't tell. No, it didn't. 15 guided meditations. Oh, yeah, it popped up in the chat already. That are just foundational meditations that go through each one of these sense areas that I'm talking about, seeing, hearing, and feeling, and gets into a lot of detail. So those are available. If it's of interest, you can check those out and give you a little instruction offline when we're not here meditating.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much for joining here. Let's see here. We have Leah Troy. Hello, Leah Troy. Oh,
that's me.
That's you. Awesome. Well, welcome back. Awesome. Okay, so we also here have Nate. Nate, welcome.
Hi, how's it going?
Good. How are you? You're invisible, but that's okay if you prefer not to be. You prefer to be heard, not seen.
My company made me get rid of. My company made me get rid of the Zoom app. Apparently, it's. I don't know. I don't care, but so I'm getting used to using the Zoom browser instead because the app is apparently against company security or something. So, That's why I guess I didn't have my video on.
Fun.
Just an observation. It's
Can I tell you a total side story? This is unrelated. I had a friend for a while who would I always be like, hey, like, are you? This is back when like people would say a sentence like this, like, are you on Facebook? And he's like, no, I'm not on Facebook. And I'd be, oh, cool. How about this? And this thing. It's like, no, I don't do that. It's like, oh, so you like you don't do these technology things. And it ends up that he like was sort of cagey about it. I was like, so what's going on here? And it ends up he's like, okay, I'll tell you. I'm a diamond courier. And I was like, oh yeah? And he's like, and the rules around it are so intense. And he's like, I carry, $500,000 diamonds like around the city. So like I can't be geolocated, and it's so serious. So for whatever reason, his company had these various policies for obvious reasons, and it just meant that he was very like a sort of digitally isolated, which I thought was quite interesting.
That's a better story. I might use that from now on.
Hey, maybe he was lying. Maybe he just worked for some selling ad time on the internet or something. Sorry. So go ahead.
Just an observation with do nothing. It's a very difficult practice at 11 a.m. on a workday because all the things that I did in the morning and all the things that I have to do moving forward, especially in the remote world that we're living in right now, for a work from home kind of people. We talked about this in a different class recently, but I definitely was not able to. I think too much about doing nothing, and especially when, to me, the drilling in the background that we hear was nothing compared to it was almost a welcome watching it bounce through me. Not watching it bounce through me, but just letting it go through me versus the feeling in, I guess, of all of or visualizing of all of the things I'd already done and things I've got to do. So maybe for me, do nothing, and I don't know if this is common when it comes to that kind of practice. It's like only a morning thing, early in the morning or late at night, more so than take half an hour out of the middle of your day and try to stop everything, and then you end up restarting it, of course. But that was just my observation, that it was pretty hard to do given just the relative time of day more than anything else.
Absolutely. And what you're describing in another way of saying it is momentum. Like when there's a lot of momentum of the day, so when you sit down and close your eyes, all of that momentum just sweeps right over into the meditation, which is actually quite normal. So if you were to use like sort of traditional terms, which I'm like, I think sometimes these terms are really weird and sometimes they're totally helpful, but the traditional term for that is karma. And it's the momentum of decisions and actions we've taken in the past sort of coming into and expressing themselves in the present moment. I like to just call that momentum. And so it might be very uncomfortable, and it might not be the practice for you or for anyone watching, that kind of thing. And it's helpful to know that it does give us information about the sort of the experience of karma, the experience of that, the decisions and actions and setup of our past plays itself out in the present moment. It might be very unpleasant, and it does not. It might also be, this is something that Leah mentioned a moment ago, it might be totally unpleasant, it might be totally unfun, and that doesn't mean it's not extremely fruitful. We can think of it a little like therapy. Therapy often feels quite good. We're like, oh, what a relief. I went and I talked. And often it feels like, what the hell was that? Like, I feel weird and yucky, etc. But just because we have a strong, intense therapy session doesn't mean it was bad therapy and we shouldn't do therapy anymore. It's actually often an indication that we're breaking through something. That said, we want meditation especially to be interesting and fun and exciting and all these things. So we don't want to just pick the thing that's the hardest, because I did that for years and I suddenly noticed, like, man, I really don't want to meditate. So we have to be careful and make sure to do what's fun. So yeah, totally. And we do plenty of do nothing practice in this stream. So don't worry if you're watching.
I get that too.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So I'm glad folks are jumping in here on the Zoom. Let's see here. And I want to make sure that if more people want to jump on, they can. I'm going to put this link here just so you know this Zoom link is to come on the stream and chat about your experience, ask questions, that kind of thing. There's plenty happening in the chat here, so let me just go over some of this from the back here. Beep, boop, boop, beep, boop. Okay, so Farzad says, hi Janusz, I've been looking into Dzogchen for a while now. As far as I understand, technically speaking, Dzogchen meditation is only do nothing. Yeah, I think that's relatively fair. There's a lot of discussion in Dzogchen about non-duality, and you know the sort of the place where do nothing fits most neatly is in shikantaza, which is a kind of Zen. So I actually have never thought about like what's the exact overlay of Dzogchen and shikantaza, Soto Zen kind of thing. Anyway, very curious. Mental note, I want to look into that. And if anyone knows already, then hey, let me know. Let's see. Farzad here says, beep, boop, boop, beep, boop. Oh, no, that was your comment already. Oh, yeah, you said the next thing is, Farzad, however, it is emphasized that for meditation, one must attain the view of Dzogchen. Otherwise, there is no basis for meditation. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that. I would have to look into it because actually I've heard something like that before, but I never sort of drilled down and was like, what are you talking about there? Yeah, I would be curious. But I do know that in Dzogchen there's much less of an emphasis on formal seated practice. It's actually more of a kind of, ongoing being in the world. So there's something there. So I'd be curious. I'm going to do a little research on that. Monica, hello Monica, good to see you. I also had body sensation. It felt like my body was being pulled down and up at the same time. Interesting. It felt really good though. Okay, well there you go. I'm glad you're here because it was your request, this particular meditation. So if anyone's upset at how this meditation went, it's Monica's fault. No, I'm just kidding. That's not true at all. It's my fault. But interesting, yeah, that can often be the case, especially there can often be a sense of distortion in the body, like the head gets really big or the hands feel like they're, they weigh 1,000 pounds or so, these different things. So nice, glad to hear that. 2020 CL says, I felt a lot of distraction, maybe because there was no relaxation first. That could be the case. It's also that generally in a do-nothing practice, there's just generally more distraction. The mind doesn't have a place to go, and we're not even trying to stop that. We're not trying to say stop being distracted. The mind just, sometimes it is distracted, and sometimes it is not, and that's just the shape of things. We don't really get to choose. The one thing that's worth noting that traditionally when a do-nothing practice occurs, the posture is very strict, and this is one of the questions I had for a long time was every meditation has a kind of balance between, doing and non-doing, right? So you often hear in meditation, oh, let go, but also follow this instruction and follow your breath or notice this thing and make mental labels. And so there's a lot of doing, and then there's this whole side of non-doing. And I always wondered, I noticed that if I laid down and meditated, I could have, I could relax more and sort of let go more than I could when I was sitting up and meditating. But the danger was if I was sleepy, I would just be out. So there had to be this sort of balance between doing and non-doing, having energy and having less energy, sort of a balance of energy. Energy is like physical energy in the body. So I always wondered, how is it that in this practice there's no direction, there's no instruction? How is it that someone could proceed in meditation? And historically, it's sort of very brilliant because what they do is they outsource the discipline and they outsource direction of practice. Because what happens is, for one thing, it's very important that your posture is quite perfect, and so in a way, it's like the outer shell just is very stable. And then there's no direction. But not only is the outer shell stable, you don't have to direct your own meditation, in part because there's someone walking around the room with a stick. And if you so much as move, or if you slouch and fall asleep, etc., they're going to hit you with that stick. Now, it's not as violent as it might sound. They hit you in this very particular spot on the shoulder. It's less painful than energizing. It's very ceremonial, and it's coming. It's this kind of thing. But because they outsource that, and it's sort of, if you think about like Skinnerian conditioning, like training a puppy or something, because of the threat or the sort of the potential difficult thing or what like negative reinforcement is outside, you don't even handle it. There's a way in which you can just let go of that, and it handles itself not within you. So you don't have to direct your own practice. So the balance between doing and non-doing is that you don't do anything, but the system that you're within, the monastic system, does it for you, which is pretty brilliant, versus you having to direct your own practice. So just something worth noting, something interesting. 613 style says, when you're early in your practice, after your 15 foundational meditations, do most people pick one that most works for them and stay with it, move on, or move around day to day? Excellent question. So here's what I would say, and let me actually double check. Okay, I was double checking in case people were waiting on Zoom. Excellent question. So the way that I personally teach, I teach a lot of different skills, and I start with those 15 meditations, and then I kind of go out from there. I have a library of about 100 meditations, and most of those, if I'm not incorrect, should be on our second YouTube channel. I'm going to put the whole thing in here. Let's see if this command works. Did it work? Oh my God, it did. Okay. Oh yeah, and it posted like 6 times in a row. So the one that's Deep Mindfulness 2 should have all the playbacks. Jesus Christ, should have all the playbacks for the beep, boop, boop, boop. Should have the playbacks for a lot of the old meditations, so you can explore some of those, and if that's of interest. But I teach a lot of different skills, and generally those foundational skills are essential for being able to use meditation in every aspect of our lives, without getting into, okay, do this and then this and then this and take a course, or work with a teacher one-on-one, this kind of thing. I would say exactly. The answer is pick one that seems interesting, and it's not just do the meditation, it's to let the system get good at that experience. So similar to riding a bike, at first it's like very clunky and mechanical, and like, how am I doing this kind of thing, and then you do it and you do it and you do it, and you don't have to remember every time. You don't have to try to get your system to remember what riding a bike is like. In fact, that's the analogy, is you don't have to remember, the system just does it. In the same way with meditation, in fact exactly in the same way, through observing something and observing it and observing it and observing it, the system doesn't need to try to observe it anymore, it just does. So for me right now, for instance, and this is a particularly weird thing, we've talked about this a few weeks ago, when I take a breath, I can feel the breath sensations in my feet. That's usually how I can tell if there's a little bit of attunement going on. Now, that's not something you should do or have to do, but having tried to detect breath sensation everywhere in the body over and over and over and over again, the system can just do it like that. And that's really how we progress in meditation, is we get very good at one of the meditations, and then we expand that skill in that way. So I like to introduce a lot of skills, but many meditation systems are where you just pick one and you just drill down on that one particular. So if I were to just say, what do? I would say, check out those 15 guided meditations, pick the ones that are interesting to you, experientially interesting, not just mentally interesting, and really get into them, and then drop us a line and say, hey, I'm here, what do I do next? And we're happy to, to let folks know. And just so folks do know, we're now doing live streams 5 days a week, every weekday. Our other live streams are on Instagram, is that even in our links? Yeah, there's an Instagram link there. So that's, we're checking right now if we can also have it be at 11 a.m. It's either 11 or 12 right now. We're trying to clean that up. It just started. Raquel is guiding Thursdays and Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm guiding Monday, Wednesday, Friday here on Twitch. And if you're watching this other places, it's also simulcasting other places. So hopefully that answers your question. If not, let me know. A Little Liner says, I wonder what your thoughts are on extreme dullness. Very interesting question. I've recently been experiencing dullness at the point of most falling asleep and having a very tired body when sitting, no matter what time of day. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of cutting out of the dullness, and it feels very alert immediately. Okay, excellent. So the first question when somebody says, I'm getting a lot of dullness, sleepiness, this kind of thing, first thing and this is extremely common, sleepiness in practice is like such a central thing, and it plagued me for years. So what I would, the first thing I ask, and you can ask, or you can let me know in the comments here, is, are you getting enough sleep? Do you have appropriate, sleep hygiene, etc.? And often, we'll go through a whole set of things to do with meditation and do with, what do we do there? And the answer is often, oh, right, I'm only sleeping 3 hours a night. And that's like one of the main challenges. So first is to check out, are you getting enough sleep? Another thing is, there's a great article by Shinzen Young called From Fuzz to Buzz. And if somebody wouldn't mind putting that in the chat, that way we can get what's it called? We can get that. That's a nice resource that Shinzen wrote about how to move from, dullness to the sort of wakefulness of being awake. And I have some additions to that article that I think might be helpful. Yeah, okay, so you are getting enough sleep. Perfect. Okay, so that's helpful to know. So the next thing is that there's a few things that I find tend to drive sleepiness. One thing is over-efforting. So there can often be this case that we're trying, and the system will just, because we're trying, the system gets exhausted, the mind gets exhausted, and it just is like, pushes us into sleepiness. So part of it is to learn how to try less and still be conscious. Personally, the way that I broke through that was recognizing that for me, sleepiness and the fogginess, etc., actually, and this is sleepiness, not just dullness of the mind, actually took place just right here on the face. And there's this sort of heavy, sleepy sensation here. And it was pretty local. There's some sensation of relaxation in the body, but the sleepiness itself is like here. And it's a very efficient way for the system to trick us into thinking, oh, I'm sleepy everywhere, because the eyes, we locate space in relationship to the eyes. So if this part feels sleepy, it can feel like sleepiness is everywhere because the mind locates it there. So something that was helpful for me is to recognize that the sleepiness is sleepy, but the knowing of that sleepiness, the awareness of the sleepiness, is bright. So it's to find that place where we're not pulled into the gravitational well of the sleepiness, but we can hang out with the knowing of that sleepiness with a little bit of critical distance, ideally. That's really helpful, I found, for me, for breaking through that. The other thing that can cause sleepiness, which is worth mentioning, is that every human being disassociates. Every human being has some degree of disassociation, which is just a way the mind gets foggy, or we get some stress happening, and then we get a little sleepy, and that can go very extreme to the point where people feel fully disassociated from their bodies, and like they're not even there, and they're walking through life, and they're really separated in that way. Oh, thank you. Someone posted the link. Thank you so much for that. So it's worth noting that might be the case, and there's a way to tell whether it's disassociation or not, or this can help us lean in that direction. The brain cannot prioritize disassociation over hand-eye coordination. Hand-eye coordination will cut off disassociation because it's needed for survival. So often what I'll do as a trick to tell is take some object, this big fat dummy marker that I have, and this is how Nick got his title on the plant here. Nick has been such a long time subscriber here on the channel that he's got at least this full month. Nick is our co-host here. This big dumb marker, and just throw it around a few times, and I'll notice if I'm disassociating, it'll be weirdly hard to catch. I'll be like, what the hell? Like, I keep dropping this thing. And then I'll also notice that if I do it enough, the whole system will brighten up, whoosh, and the system will just become suddenly awake. Now, disassociation is often, not always, but often an indication that we're stressed, or that we have some kind of trauma that the system is coming in contact with that it's not so happy with, so it just starts to shut down the system. So if we notice that there is this association there, it might be not that we have to stop meditation or should stop what we're doing. It could mean, that maybe we should get some outside support around developmental trauma or trauma in general. Or it could also mean that the way that we're interacting with whatever's happening, we could do it in a different way that wouldn't cause us to be so overwhelmed. Maybe it even means using a different meditation object. Sometimes people don't talk about this, but if people are watching the breath, sometimes a lot of somatically held emotion can be held in the body. In particular, for me, it was held in like the throat and upper chest area, a lot of old fear and sadness. So when I would observe the breath, I would, oh, I don't really like this practice, or I'd be a little overwhelmed, not really realizing why. So that's another possibility around sleepiness and dullness. There's something else there I forgot I was going to say that seems pretty relevant. Also, you can just see what happens if you just change the practice. This can also happen that the meditation itself is just sort of pushing you into a very intense rest experience. So see what happens if you practice standing up or you practice walking. You're less likely to notice as much stability while you're doing that, but all of the same insight and mindfulness can be present in a walking meditation. Just concentration tends to be a fair amount lower. Let's see here. Beep, boop, boop, beep, boop. Oh, Monica and 2020 CL. It was a little race there to get the link out, and you guys beat each other. Yeah, probably simultaneous. That's probably what happened. Let's see. Bob Saunders says, "Lovely stable sit today." Well, hey, sometimes luck of the draw lands on us. The lack of specific instructions set for attention was pleasant. Reminds me of the old just sitting practice sits. Wide, deep, solid, taking up of the posture, letting the mind stuff go. Yeah, it's interesting because the likelihood is, because you have some experience doing that, the rockiness at the beginning of learning to do this can be less intense. So, beep, boop, 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 mind calculating. I want to mention before we go a couple things. One is that our new class has just opened up registration, and you can check that out there. It's going to be about the path of awakening and using Shinzen system to get there, and that's a great place if folks are interested. If you want to do some serious fun practice, MD Eng says hi. See here, feel X times in and out? Question mark. MD Eng, I'm not sure which thing we were referring to, because it's always stacked in this way. So if ever you make a comment, make sure to refer to the thing you're commenting to, because I don't know what you're referring to. But thank you for leaving that comment. Let me know what that meant. Let's see here. And then Little Liner says, thank you so much. That really resonated. Well, great. I'm very glad that resonated. Folks, big news is that we will be back here in fewer than 72 hours. We're going to have this rock and roll weekend consisting of, staying at home and making whipped cream and playing with our puppy, which, P.S., before we go, let me see real quick. Okay, folks, we have a guest star coming on the screen soon. Some of you may know this particular star. Oh, we're going to wake up this particular guest star. They're sleeping in their little mini prison. No, okay. Guest star coming on soon. Guest star in 5, 4, 3. Last time I brought her on screen, she just freaked out immediately, so hopefully she's chill.
Hold under her butt.
Oopsies. Oops. Oh, there you go. There she is. Hello, everybody. If you haven't met before, this is Sela. She is a 6-month-old miniature schnauzer. I'm just going to make an adjustment, Sela. Don't freak out, okay? Just making an adjustment. Actually, I'm going to give you super dog treatment. She somehow doesn't freak out when I do this. Hold her out like a little hot dog. Whoosh, super dog. So, I'll just hold you like that. This is Sila. If people don't know, Sila is the term in Buddhism for basically the concept that what you do and the decisions you make matter. In other words, ethics. In other words, the sort of central driver of becoming a more fulfilled person. The idea that goodness can exist in the world and we have a say in that. Hello, little lady. Hello. Say hi to everyone. Hi. Hi. Weep, weep, weep. Oh, what a cutie. Mwah. So, folks, we're going to be back here in fewer than 72 hours, and we'll be back here with the puppy. If you have any requests for meditations or things to cover, we're sort of opening up to some new themes. Take her. Some new themes soon, so if you have any interest, please feel free to let us know. And, yeah, glad that folks are interested in the Instagram casts. And we'll, look at that cute little dog. Is that a dog with a chef's hat on? I love that. Or maybe it's just a little white beret. Okay, folks, so here I have a wish for you today. The wish for you, which is funny because we usually make a wish related to the meditation. So today's wish is just that the system does what it does. The system is sometimes pleasant and sometimes unpleasant. The system sometimes is curious and sometimes just doesn't care. The system is cranky sometimes and sometimes it ends up being chill. Oh no, the GIF doesn't seem to be functioning. Why you no function? Okay, well, it's usually a moving GIF, but we'll see. Folks, as always, thank you so much for joining. Lovely to have you here. Thank you for all the folks who joined us so bravely over here on our Zoom call, and we're very happy to have you here. Make sure to check out, if you'd like to see any previous playbacks, on youtube.com/deepmindfulness2. Our second channel, our main channel, has more of our fun videos, easier to watch than just raw playbacks. And if you want to find out about our 15 guided meditations, there's a link there, or anything else, please let us know. Any questions arise, we are delighted to be helpful if we can. Folks, have a lovely day. Have fun. Take care of each other. Look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.